All right, we have another interesting topic that we're going to talk about, and that
Yep.
is how you, Phil, how
That's me.
Radical,
Yep. Yep.
uh, how the ball testing process goes, how you develop a brand new ball from scratch, from concept.
To launch.
I actually made another one of these little dealios
Hey,
here.
Nick found a new toy, and this is going to be the death of us. Let me write that
No,
down.
this is
Let
the
me pull up
great.
a
This is the
slide. Let me put that down.
greatest thing ever. This is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever. I'm getting
Should I do it
busy
like
moving
this? Should I
back
do
and
it like
forth.
this? We're gonna do it like
Okay.
that.
Stop moving it.
That looks perfect. Thank you. All
Perfect.
right. So, question one right off the bat: how do you
Yeah.
decide what kind of ball to make?
You're talking about what ball to make? Kind. It's a bowling ball. We know what kind it is. What
Got it.
ball?
We're in the
So
business of bowling balls.
we're in the bowling ball business, right? So you know what? You look at a company like Radical, or I had with Track, or Dynathane, even at Columbia. Okay, you have to realize where the company fits into the marketplace. With the heritage brands like Columbia and Ebonite and Brunswick, you have to have everything for everybody. But with the brands like Track when I had it, or Dynathane or Radical, I look at it as a bowler and saying, if I were going to stick with this one company, uh, what do they have to have in order for me as a bowler to stick with one company and be loyal to that one brand? And I have to look at across the board. So what we look at when we make a bowling ball is what ball would fit in each category, um, performance wise. And I'm not going to say low end and high end, because that's not, balls don't do that. Balls perform at a certain um, place in the industry. So we try to look at a low intermediate diff ball, or something that's good for drier lanes, just to categorize it. Something that's good for medium lanes, something that's good for tighter lanes. And then we look at the type of players we want to cater to. And our goal is to cater to the league bowlers, because those are the guys that actually buy bowling balls. The people you see walking around with shirts on and logos on have gotten on staff. They ain't buying anything. It's all free to them. So the guy I have to cater to is the person that goes out and buys bowling balls. So the one thing I do is I look at what are my categories, and what am I missing, and how can I improve in it? And that's usually the starting point.
And sometimes you're looking to replace a certain ball on the line.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, it's in that category.
Yeah. So,
You know,
like for
yeah,
instance, you're replacing an Intel. Well, what can I make that's close to an Intel?
correct. Without actually making that intel,
Right.
for some, and a lot of times there's other reasons we don't make the same ball over and over and over again. Some companies do that, and they call it something else. I got no problem with it. That's your philosophy, and that's fine. But in our case, we look for improving on, um, and getting feedback from the customers about the ball. That ball was really good, but I couldn't use it on a certain condition. So maybe I can expand the motion of that ball when it's more usable.
Hmm.
So
Okay. Next question.
this is brutal. The name that sounds great on Monday actually sucks on Tuesday. Happens a lot.
If it
You
didn't
know,
already get rejected by legal on a Wednesday,
on a Wednesday, legal says no. It's just
or it
so,
gets approved on a Tuesday and then
yeah,
rejected by legal on a Wednesday,
yeah,
back to the
exactly.
drawing board.
Yeah, and then you have to go back and start looking up. Was it a ball 40 years ago with that name, or 20 years ago with that name? So names are really tough. We like to have names that can have extensions. Like the Katana line. The original one had the Katana and had the Katana Slash, the Katana Dragon, the Master, whatever. Do we have a Katana Dragon? I just made that up. We did.
Yeah, that's old.
Yeah. And
Yep.
now we got the
Katana,
Katana
Katana
Assault.
Slash, Katana Dragon,
Yeah,
Katana
Katana
Legend.
Legend. Right.
I just
So you
made that
start,
up.
I made that up. You got to keep going.
Yeah, just like the ball name you came up with before the show. You're like, oh, that's a great idea. Has that been done? I was like, yeah, it
Yeah.
has been
Yeah, it
done.
was. Has
It
been
was
done. We
very
don't know.
successful.
So
Great
what?
idea.
Yeah, great idea. It was a good name. Good name.
It was a good name for that
So
company. Good
names are
job.
names are tough. Names are tough. So
Or sometimes you come up with a name that has never been done. You're
Mhm.
all about it, and then it gets to the committee, and then you're just like, I think you
Yeah.
laid
Well, it
laid it laid an
depends.
egg with that one.
Yeah, and that's why I don't like to go to the committee. You know, the worst thing in
Yeah.
the world is have a meeting with 10 people in a room because you get 10 different opinions.
Yeah.
So,
So that's
you
why
know,
you just keep it to one-on-one.
that's it.
Yeah. It usually comes up with, hey, Nick, I need some ball names for the next ball. What do you got?
That's it. That's how it works. And then Nick will give me some names, and I'll say, "Nah, that sucked. That's not good.
Oh,
That's not
suck. I'm
good."
gonna go with this one anyway.
Anyway, yeah. But I gave him a choice. He felt like he was included.
Yeah. I was like, hey, thanks for wasting my time.
Yeah, exactly.
Or he'll try to come out with that same name like 3 years later and think it's his own.
I snuck it by. That's right.
I was like, nope, nope. I'm like an elephant. I never forget.
Yeah, I see that.
All right. So
How
how
hard is it to pick
hard?
colors? You know, it was so easy
Back in the 90s.
back in the 90s. But it was so easy. You had, you didn't have too many multicolored balls yet. Um, and then it was only two color. So that was pretty easy because you could look at a color wheel and you'll know that if you put the red with the blue, your byproduct was going to be purple. It was easier. Yellow, blue, you're going to get some green. Now, when you start adding a third color, you never know what that byproduct is going to be. It could be an ugly brown. So colors are tricky. Monochromatic, chromatic. You want to have an opportunity to have a ball be bright enough and colorful enough, but it's got to be. You have to be careful because colors are going to mix. They don't just stay in their own little zone on the bowling ball. So colors are tricky. The other thing is, and I love this is my favorite one I hear constantly. That ball looks just like
We heard it today.
I did, didn't I?
Well, no, we heard it today. It's like, oh, that new
Yeah,
vibe looks like a sunstorm. It's like, well, the
exactly.
sunstorm looks like a poison.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, you can go down the list. It's like
Right, and I
they
hear it
didn't invent yellow.
constantly. Yeah, the cash was red and orange and black. So every ball we make with orange and black in it, that must be like the cash or the I
Yeah.
mean, down the list, and it's not. The colors are sometimes. I mean, how many colors are there? Think about it.
How many
You
good
know,
colors are there?
what colors are there? Right. So it's tough to do. I tried to get out of that loop. I let Rich Hansen try to do it because what was going on was I picked colors and Rich would say, well, we got 7 brands, and that's the March ball for Ebonite
Yeah.
has those colors. They're not exactly the same, but
Pick
so
something else.
pick something else, and then I'd be picking for like a week. So now, do they affect performance? They're still, I think personally, the school is still out on that one. Um, the only ball I know that colors do affect is and it's not a color, it's black because it's carbon black that we use in it to make it as black as it is. So, but the other colors are all for the most part we use dye. We don't use pigment as much as we used to. Pigment meaning a powder that was mixed in to make the color. And a dye is simply like you dyed your clothes. You had a white T-shirt, you dyed it blue. Did the blue make the T-shirt different? No, it's similar to that. I don't think there's much difference in performance.
I mean, if you made it purple, it's probably a little softer than after you make the T-shirt.
According to the PBA, it's a lot softer, and
Boy.
if it got older, it got softer.
Yeah, after a few washes.
After a few washes, yeah, the purple shirts got soft. It's just unbelievable. Don't even get me started on that.
I'm trying to get you started. I'm
I
trying
know
to.
you are. I'm not going to get in. I'm not getting sucked in today. I'm going to bowl with my friends tomorrow. I don't want to be aggravated.
I'm just trying to open the choke and pull the cord and see where get Phil running on this one.
No, I'm not doing it.
Almost had him, guys. Almost had
balls do not get softer as they get older. Whatever. They might get oil in the surface. They'll get oil in the surface, and the durometer will read it softer. The ball is not softer.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
So it's like telling me your tires have no traction, and you go on ice. You go, see, there's no traction. But on a pavement, they had traction. So anyway, not important. So
all right, next question.
Go ahead.
How far in advance are bowling balls developed?
So I have balls in the works that are a year and a half out, a year out, simply because it could be a new core, or it could be an existing core with a new cover formula. So depending on um, how much complexity is involved, I got test balls in yesterday, and they are for. Can't find my sheet. I'll tell you. I think they're for next January, and I got test balls already, first iteration.
Yeah.
But
So
but
this
that
is
core has started 3 months ago.
you got another fan outside honking. They want in on the show. Yeah. So that's you're talking 7 months between
Oh yeah,
now
at
and
least.
January. That's
Right,
not.
right.
This isn't the first concept. This is the first prototype you got.
That's
This
the
is the
first
first.
prototype, right? The concept had started back in probably January, so a year, at least a year. When we gave the concept to the core designer,
Mhm.
and Steve Freshour is the guy that's doing our cores. He has been doing them for a very long time for us, and Steve has a good grasp on how we get things from ideas to from concept to the product.
Mhm.
So he started working on it, and he has a special program that we're using now that predicts the motion of the core, not the motion on the lane, because the motion on the lane is dictated by friction, cover stock, etc. But the motion of the core on how the core progresses in the ball, um, in outer space, for instance, how it would progress. He's got a whole program that does that. And the first ball we did that on was the Outer Limits, and it was fantastic success. So we have more and more concepts being developed that way. The cool thing about that is I can tell him I would like this motion that ball has. I'll name a ball. It could be any company's ball, and Steve can plug that information in. Um, if he gets the information on densities and whatever, and we can even get some of that information ourselves. He plugs that all in, and he can predict ball motion, um, pretty much match whatever was out there. So we're using that a lot,
Yeah.
especially if we like certain motions or want to tweak a motion that we like and make it a little bit better. So it's a year
That help
soft, if
that
not
helps
more.
streamline new cores too because it
Absolutely.
takes a lot of the guesswork away
Sure, it does. I
before
mean,
you
he
even make
turns
a
around.
core.
Absolutely right. I mean, we did a ball um, that's coming out in. I think it's next. I think it's next October. Oh, here it is. I got it right here. Hang on. I'll tell you. It's coming out in October.
Okay.
Okay, and it was one shot. We got it in one shot. The core matched perfectly. The only tweak we did when we tested it was we got two different cover stocks put around it,
Sure.
and that ball's done. And that was a one shotter. Now, the behind the scenes work took almost a year, but as far as testing goes, that was our first really good shot. Well, actually, the Outer Limits was the first ball we did like that, and we did it with one take. The only thing we had to do was adjust the surface finish. On the second ball, the one's coming out in October, it was a one and out. I mean, got it on the first shot. We had two test balls come in with two different covers on it.
Seth had thrown it perfect that day, so got all the
Seth was on
testing done in one
fire that
shot.
day. Seth was the testing animal, and that ball we got it in one shot, one take, done.
Well, that's
So
good.
yeah,
You only get one shot, one opportunity.
that's it.
You're gonna grab it. You're gonna let it slip. You have no idea what I'm talking about right now.
I
I
have
know
no
people in
idea
the.
what you're talking about.
I know a bunch of people in the chat are gonna pick up on that reference.
Yeah,
But
whatever.
but
You
you're
keep
not.
saying you do. I'm not. I don't care.
All right. Next question.
Go ahead.
How often are changes made after the prototype? So this goes back to expound on the
Yeah,
last question a little bit.
yeah. It's here's a lot of interesting scenario. Okay, so we got the core concept. We got the cores. The prototypes are made. Um, we developed the core without buying the molds yet. We're still developing and building our own molds in house. And then all of a sudden, R&D says, "Hey, wait! I got this great cover stock. I have a new cover stock technique that we're using. We have a new formula. We have new additives.
Fresh off
Well,
the truck.
fresh off the truck. So here's what happens: the original ball was designed based on what we knew about certain covers. Now the core is available, but we have a better cover, and maybe it doesn't match that core perfectly. but I want to use a new cover because cover is most important.
Sure.
So I want to use the new cover. So I have to go back to the prototype and talk to Steve Fresh Hour and say, hey, Steve, I need a tweak. We got to tweak this core. And he'll work on it for a little bit and do it. So it happens a lot based on cover technology. And we're so advanced on cover technology in the industry, nobody's close to us right now with the HK22. So things that we might have started a year and a half ago, we did not have HK22 as an option. So those cores with HK22 might be different in performance. Again, we're building to hit targets, performance targets, so that we can build an arsenal. The whole company is an arsenal. It's a worldwide arsenal. Whatever we put together, World Wide Web, we put an arsenal together. You can go in our brand and take a low diff ball, medium diff ball, low intermediate, high intermediate, go down the list, and we'll have something for everybody. If you bought one of every ball, you'd have the perfect arsenal, one of every category. So when I take a ball that I want to stick in a certain category and the covers options have changed, I got to go back and fix that core. So we might have to make a change to the core, the prototype, in order to use the new technology of the covers.
So speaking of the covers, especially HK22, Roy wants to know, how long did it take to create that HK22 formula?
I think there were 15 or 16 iterations. Now, along the line, we use them. Bear in mind, we did use them. For instance, the Innovator was the one right before HK22. Okay. The Sneak Attack Solid is an iteration. Okay. It's what we had in the works. The base is a little bit different. So we made some changes. So all of those are iterations that are really good. They're just not the end HK22, which we built to be projection, polished, projected balls that flip hard down lane. The industry had been abandoned somewhat of that performance when USBC got involved with some of the companies that had hardness issues and so on. There were some changes in their production, and those shiny flippy balls weren't around. We were looking for it forever. Now we got it, and we're the ones that have the lead right now when it comes to that type of performance. So there are so many iterations that got from point A to point B to where we are today. Okay. So it's a lot.
So on the flip side of all this, how often are bowling balls tested and then just flat out scrapped?
It happens a lot. It happens because I've been doing this for a long time, and I watch Seth throw them or Jeff throw them, and I can tell you right away that ball is not going to be good. And most times it's because they may roll forward. The core is too strong for the cover, and I don't need a ball with that strong a cover with that strong a core with a weaker cover, because I have that slot filled, or it's doing very well for us, and we got some good product in that line. So we scrap that a lot. A lot of times we'll get 2 or 3 different cores sent to us because I might be targeting a certain. We don't do it as much now as we did in the past, but I might be targeting a number. I want something with a 2.48, 051, 020 numbers, and I'll get a core for that design because I'm trying to build it into a target. And then those balls sometimes they just don't roll good after drilling. So we have a lot more behind the scenes than people think we do, especially when it comes to after drilling numbers. You have a great looking core, and then you put holes in it, and the numbers are like ridiculous.
You have to model that. Yeah, sure. You have to do all that.
Absolutely. I mean, we had a ball one time that the intermediate diff blew up so bad that the ball rolled forward instantly. Yeah. But when you looked at the design and the pre-drilled numbers, they were fine. So that gets scrapped.
Yeah, my favorite was the ball with like almost 030 intermediate, and the total differential was only in the 040s.
That's right.
I was like, oh boy, I wonder what this.
You remember that? That was terrible.
I remember that. That wasn't great.
No, that was not great. So
let's leave it at that. It wasn't great.
Wasn't great. Exactly right.
Next.
Yeah.
In your opinion, in your professional, long, historic opinion, what's the ideal amount of ball launches per year for your brand? What would be ideal?
I think 9. And I'll tell you why. I think you got three performance points, and then you got new cores. So we try to rotate at least one new core design a year. And you might have two versions of that. Plus, you have the price points that are selling already, and you might have another version of that cover stock. So 9 is probably the right amount if you break it down. And I don't have the math in front of me. If I don't know how many days that is.
Math is hard. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's about every 40, 45 days. You know, now they're not conflicting balls. I don't have a Katana of Assault and another Katana coming out in 45 days. I have a Katana of Assault that I might have a Sneak Attack, or might have a Rattler, or an Outer Limits.
Yeah.
You know, and they're all different.
Yeah,
Staggered. You know, yeah.
And last question I have on here before we get into all the chat questions.
Mhm.
So how do you choose surfaces during the process? Like, how do you choose if you're going to go hybrid, solid, pearls, with surface, with compound? Tell us how you kind of get to that.
So again, we have a target, a performance target, and that's the key. A performance target is the key. I want a ball to do this at this point from the break point to the pocket. So you break it in components, you know, off the hand to the break point, from the break point to the pocket. And then I adjust. So once I have the basis right, whether it's the right cover and core combination that I'm looking for, okay, then I have to look at the masses of people and who's going to buy them. I don't use pros to test my bowling balls. I have never done that. When I was at Columbia, we did it, and I got out of that right away, you know, because that pro is looking for a ball that's going to make money for him. He's not thinking of how many I'm going to sell. He's thinking of how he's going to win the US Open. And I'm looking at the guy that buys bowling balls, my customer, who pays good money for that ball. He needs to have a ball that he can use, and I let the pros figure out, if they're pros, how to bowl with it. That's not my problem. My problem is the customer. You know, the guy.
I think that was a little evil little diss on Seth. You're just basically telling him he's never going to be a pro. That's why he's such a good tester. You hear that, Seth?
You know what? That if that's all Seth ever gets from me for a year, it's a bonus. Because there's no one that I abuse more than Seth. I just have so much fun with him. I love Seth to death.
You hear that, Seth? He's going to make you a bonus special and give it to you.
That's it. So,
Nice.
So we don't use the pros for that reason. You know, I want a guy that's going to tell me that the ball is good. You know, Seth has balls he really likes. He was Lord of the Zings. He was Set Squatch. Set Squatch. So, but Seth is honest. You know, he likes the way the ball rolls, or he doesn't like it. He can use it on a certain pattern. You know, I always look at the average guy has to throw that ball because he's the one buying it. You know, so we try to build balls for the average league guy to take advantage of it and improve his experience.